Welcome, everyone. We're so excited. Emily's here with us. So, for
Yay.
those of you who don't know, this is Emily Ghosh Harris, one of our very good friends, and someone who is so talented and has so many gifts and serves the multiverse in so many ways. Emily is a sound healer, serves to hold podcasts herself and offers business coaching and Avalina, what else am I?
You're into so many things. It's so beautiful. I
Yes,
love it. And
so
there's a lot
many
of
gifts.
synchronicities, astrology, and
Yes.
you teach on many platforms,
Mhm.
and really in helping people. What I love is to really express themselves and to find their expression through joy and finding their passion. Even if that's through business or whatever way anyone chooses to show up. I really honor that and love that. So we just want to explore with you today, whatever flow comes through our collective conversation today. So we're so grateful for you to be here today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it is such an honor. I love this show and I love listening to the two of you. So it's a surreal moment to be here and to be able to share in this way. I'm so grateful.
Well,
Yeah.
we feel that you are a treasure, and we just are thrilled for the opportunity for Flow to get to move through this trio and the collective energy of those gathered to this experience. And so this heart-centered um, arena, I just picture this um, opening almost like a satellite dish, but more organic than that. Almost like the sun's rays dawning in the morning kind of thing. That there are so
Mhm.
many beautiful gifts to come from the opening of this portal.
Mm. And
Well,
you,
my
yeah.
heart feels super open right now, so I'm excited to see what flows forth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that when I first met you, Emily, years ago now, is how your heart space. You have just this incredibly beautiful heart space, and you're very centered in that space. So it's no accident that Shauna's first comment is, on the feeling of the heart space that's expanding here. So I love that about you. So um, tell us, in the flow of what's wants to come through in this moment, through your heart, what is inspiring you in this moment? Because I know on our journeys, we go through waves of how we're moving through our journey, what's inspiring us, and it shows up in different ways, and it keeps us interested, right? It keeps things flowing in different ways, and helps us open new doors. So what is for you in this time frame? How's that showing up for you?
Oh gosh, there's so many things. I feel like sometimes it's overwhelming. Just how many things I feel drawn to and
Mm-hmm.
joyful and curious about. I think, from an astrology perspective, I have my North Node in Gemini, which is kind of interested in a lot of different things, a lot of different ideas, very curious energy. And so I think that that's kind of where I'm at with my journey right now, is just exploring the things that really light me up and bring me joy. One of the things has been sound healing. It just kind of came into my life in such a serendipitous way. And I knew that there was remembrance. I knew it's something that I had done before. It felt familiar. And so that's been something to just be able to really see how sound has such a profound impact on my own life, and how sound can really shift us on a cellular level. And I've been on the receiving end of that. And I've also, had the opportunity to facilitate sound healing gatherings. And one thing that's been really interesting about that process is how it's really helped me with my own voice. As something that I've always kind of struggled with, is having a block around my throat chakra. in this journey of being able to play with sound and be able to express and tone and sing and hum and chant, what I've been noticing is just how that flows forth more freely in my throat, and how it just has sort of a ripple effect, because all of our energy centers are so interrelated, and so that's been really fun to witness and to explore.
I love that. It's so powerful. I actually have quite a bit of experience with sound too. And actually, when I first woke up, I know you've probably heard, both of you probably heard this story, so I'll be brief. But when I initially woke up many, many years ago, it was through toning, and it was through the sound. And just as you said, those sounds created an awakening in my cells, and it sparked that Kundalini awakening pretty abruptly. And I continue to do toning, but it's so true that it's so much power in vibrating that sound through the cells.
That's amazing, Avalina. And I feel like it's no accident, right? That public speaking is one of the number one fears.
Yes.
Like there's so much programming around the voice being shut down because it is so powerful. Like our voices have the ability to create things, to bring things into creation, to be able to heal ourselves. And one of the things that I'm finding so fascinating and interesting from like just a research perspective is that, like there's somatics, which is studying the effect of sound and to actually, crystallize and make distinct patterns. But the research right now has advanced to the point of like really understanding how that affects the cell membranes. So if you look at the walls of our cells, it's like those snowflakes, those crystalline structures are actually being created through sound and actually activating and turning on our DNA.
Yeah. So the expression of what you say, when you say something to someone else, you're actually saying it to yourself, right? Whatever you say verbally, whatever expression comes out of your mouth is actually, you're vibrating it within your own field. So that self-talk and everything you say and choosing your words is very important, more important than we realize. Yeah.
And it also speaks to the power of our affirmations and the way that we hold the energy of our speaking, so that as we bring forward things like affirmations, they have an effect energetically beyond just saying them. That the power of what our cells hear is more than just it's more than just how it affects the cell membrane. It's also how we affect our own confidence and our own inner embodiment of those words. That the partnership of those two things helps create the reality around us. That literally, as we create the cells, that the DNA are listening, and that there's a response that comes in creating the reality we experience. That it's that direct a manifestation. I don't know that many people realize how quickly we're manifesting through sound and the way that we speak to ourselves.
And so, and what is it? The creation came from the word, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, Emily, I'm
curious
I
feel like
too.
Shaunna would.
Oh yeah, I know. I want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead, but then I have a question for you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, powerful because we can say something, but if we're not in full alignment, if it's not the true resonance of our being, then it's not as powerful. How often do we say affirmations, but they're not like feeling it on our cellular level, and I feel like that is getting in the frequency of that energy. And actually too, like I feel like this is why modalities like breath work, like sound, can help us, because they shift our states of consciousness. They bring us down into more of the alpha, the theta, the delta waves, where we are able to access more of the mystical, the magical, the divine. And when we are maybe reprogramming or saying an affirmation or singing to ourselves, this is how change, I feel, can happen so quickly now.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so curious about how you mentioned that um, you started connecting with your throat chakra and sound healing in these synchronistic ways, and that these divine alignments were part of your experience. And I'm curious what that was like for you. You said you felt it deeply, but I'm curious to know a little more about the synchronicity of that, because sometimes as you said, people with public speaking fears, I mean, that's so common. And how is it for you to unlock that?
Oh, I love this question. When I was a little girl, I always loved music. I would write songs and I would sing them to myself. And, somewhere along the way, I developed sort of a fear around self-expression, like definitely a block around it's not safe to express myself. And this showed up in a multitude of different ways. Like I was in chorus in high school and I remember like just lip syncing because I had so much fear around singing. I mean, you couldn't even really hear me anyways, right? But that's just like shows the degree to which like my throat was shut down. But what's interesting is like, I feel like when we have this call or these passions are always speaking to us, and so throughout my lifetime, I always gravitated towards music. Like I was always at the live music, at the festival, and I just happened to, tend to date musicians because I was gravitating towards the music. And so it was like a way of that expression being. But what I really truly wanted was to express that through myself. And so I think it was a serendipitous flow of events of really beginning to participate on the receiving side of, being in sound healing ceremonies and just noticing that like things would come up and come to the surface in a way that like, wasn't happening in other like maybe modalities of healing. And I just found it so palpable that I wanted to explore more. I was drawn to it, so I went on this retreat like up in the northern mountains of Georgia, and it was a sound healing certification retreat, and that just started it. And from there, it's just been an exploration and being able to deepen into this love of music and sound.
Oh, I love that. I have a similar passion with that also. And I agree with you. It's the throat, we all have that, particularly as women, of having a closed throat. I mean, it's when you start to open that up, you experience so much freedom. And it's not just in the concept of freedom. It's not just, oh, well, people say, well, I'm already free. And I'm thinking, well, that's not the freedom we're talking about. We're talking about the freedom of just being, the freedom of existing in every moment in a more expanded self-exploratory way. It's very hard to put into words, but I also, I went through a similar path with music. I totally shy, couldn't speak a word. And, if I tried to sing in public, my voice would crack, when I was talking, my voice would crack. And I went on to go be a singer. It's like we do these things, we push ourselves to try to, what we really want is just what you said. We really just want the freedom. Because even when I was a singer, I was like, oh, why am I actually doing this? And I actually lost a lot of interest in the performing of it, because that really wasn't why I was there. That's not what I wanted out of it. So it is so fascinating how we're drawn to these things that we have great fears for, but that really are there to help us learn how to remember how to express ourselves and give us that opportunity, because it's such a powerful, we really underestimate this area, the throat area of where our power comes from, and as you mentioned, the connection with creation, connecting with the womb is so powerful when we can open that up. Yeah.
I have full body chills. It's so powerful because like I feel what you're saying, it is the journey of liberation, you know,
Mhm.
and if you have programming like I did around unworthiness, around, you know, self-criticism, around perfectionism, like whatever that means, it's hard because what has journey of really reclaiming that of it is safe to be me, it's safe to speak my truth,
Yeah.
and in that it feels so good. And I want to like I just feel like two of the biggest lies are, you know, that we can't sing, that we
Yeah.
can't, you know, express, and also this lie about um aging.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. We've been fed so
Absolutely.
many
We've been
lies.
totally programmed in in ways that are just not the essence of who we are. I think the conversation we're having so speaks in my view of how we are this micro of the macro, that each of us is a cell in the larger human being. And as we take in the vibrations of what's been around us, the programming, that we've programmed ourselves in these ways as this one large human entity. And now we're reprogramming, just as we are with the sound healing that we're talking about of our individual cells in us. You know, we are that cell of the little of the human entity. And so how miraculous that our essence is to vibrate in this unique fractal way, right? Like that's what we are. We are the expression of spirit through this slowed down set of nanoparticles. And so as we are this, the idea that we couldn't just vibrate that song, our true innate individual unique song, I mean, it's absurd, right? I mean, we know that, but then to feel that and unprogram it is, I don't know, it's sort of like it's like our life's work almost, is to unprogram that and to be able to freely be that vibrating song of the oneness.
I
Beautiful. I
love
love
that.
that. Yeah. And each soul has its own song, right? We each have our
Exactly.
own little, you know, and we each actually have our own sound. Like
Yeah,
our souls actually have a sound. It's
exactly.
Yeah,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah.
Because we can't vibrate the same as anyone else, otherwise
Yeah.
frequency wise it's like having two radio stations on the same channel. You can't, it's not
Yeah.
even possible. So to
Yeah.
not be able to vibrate that song just doesn't even make sense. Like we're innately created to vibrate this
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. And that's what we're here to remember, right? To remember
Exactly.
our song. And so it totally makes sense that the sound is such a powerful aspect of that, you know, that modality, just, you know, like light and geometry and everything. It's just one aspect of who we are. So it makes sense that we're using our own tool. We're using our own bodies, you know, your own voice to heal yourself. It's quite miraculous that we can actually do that. And it feels really good too. You know, I mean, toning, and I'm you know, we've all done toning
Yeah.
here. You know, there's that certain times where you hit a certain note and you feel it through your body, and it's just like wow. And then even if you're in a group and you have the intention and everyone's doing the same tone, it can be extremely moving and palpable through the body. Yeah.
I totally agree. And I feel like one of the things that I find interesting is that when we remove those like false frequencies, the small voices that tell us that we can't sing, or, you know, um, you know, self-censoring, it's like, wow, actually I can sing, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Avalina, you are a singer, but like, it's just amazing because like sometimes I'll catch myself and be like, wow, like I didn't know I could tone that way. Like
Yeah.
there's, you know, stuff that wants to come forth, and, you know, where is this coming from? And so when we like remove the idea that we can't sing, or, you know, it's just incredible what wants to flow forth.
Yeah, yeah, and it's an instrument, right? It's just your throat's an instrument, just like any other instrument. You just got to get used to practicing and get familiar with it, and how to move it, right? Because I agree with you. Everyone has a voice, and everyone can sound good. They just haven't practiced or gotten comfortable with letting it out. and practicing with it. But everyone, I think, has a beautiful voice once they get
I
comfortable with
agree.
it. Yeah.
I agree. And I think the remarkable thing about our voices is that they carry the history of our experience, carry the resonance and the history of our experiences through this entire lifetime. And my understanding is that they really carry the resonance of all of our lifetimes.
I totally
Yeah,
agree with you. And I
absolutely.
actually, a friend of mine who met somebody recently, and she only heard the voice, and she was like, I know that person, you know, I know that person. And there was a connection of, you know, previous lifetime connections, but it's, you know, we can recognize people through the voice.
Yeah.
You know, how many
Absolutely.
times do you hear somebody and then you don't hear them for years, but you will recognize the voice, you know, very more easy than recognizing a face, you know,
Mhm.
with the eyes. The sound is it carries like you said, it carries more information in it.
Well,
It
because
does, yeah. And it's
the just that the vibration of our vocal cords is moving so much more than just the sound. It's also what's happening in the ears as they receive. So there's this connection both directions, like both from the DNA of the sender and the receiver, which are all part of the same oneness anyway. And so recognizing that synergistic fusion is if we've felt it before, it's a felt sense. There's something very, as you said before, palpable about that. And I'm just curious how you felt that develop over time, Emily, like with the sound work that you've done. I'm curious how, as the collective is evolving, as we are all evolving, have you felt a shift in the way that receiving and sending, you know, I don't know, I'm curious about our fine tuning, you know, just how
Mhm.
the evolution of our instruments is evolving.
Yeah, this is such an amazing question because what I've been exploring recently is the connection between the sacral chakra, our womb center, and our voices. And the really, you know, our sacral obviously is like our ability to feel our emotions, our sexuality, our sensuality, our creativity. And when there's a block, you know, in the sacral, of course, it's connected to our ability to express. And so it's, you know, often we'll see like a block around receiving, for an example, you know,
Mhm.
receiving pleasure, receiving a compliment, you know, and this is directly connected to our ability to express. And, you know, for me personally, it's like really about emotions. And I feel like that's a huge part of the inner work that's happening right now with the collective. Is like the inner work is happening on such a fast pace, you know, and we're able to shift, we're able to alchemize, we're able to transcend and, you know, transmute things, you know, across timelines in just a very quick way, it feels. And so like the ability just to feel without the judgment, you know, just getting curious, passionate, and allowing feelings, because this goes back to sound as well. You know, as babies, we just come into the world, and when we feel an emotion, we just let it express, you know, like we cry out or we like giggle in delight. And that's kind of how emotions, I feel, are meant to move through us. But somewhere along the line, like maybe, you know, it's like, shh, be quiet, or and so the ability to just feel, like that has been my process, and how it's just amazing how that connection between feeling, receiving, and expressing ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true also the you know, the connection between the throat and the womb center, because they both respond to breath. They're both respond to respiratory um, processes, you know, when often when we have a block in the throat, it is connected to the sacral. And I think there's a actual science behind that, where, you know, when a baby is being developed, those tissues that create the throat are the same, come from the same tissues that create the diaphragm. So like the diaphragm, because they're both there's almost like a net around the throat the same way that holds the diaphragm. So they come from the same place. So they're almost like twins in the body in a way.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And if you look at like the cervix and the larynx, they're mirrors of each other as well.
Yeah. I've seen images of that and they look almost identical. It's very bizarre, like an image of the throat, looking down at the throat and at the uterus, and they look almost identical, right? And I think cervix means neck in Latin. So
Wow.
there's a lot of connection there, a lot more than I think, there's probably a lot of room for exploration there. In the connection.
Inspiration, literally.
Yeah.
The breath of life, literally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hence why breath work is so important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So just curious about how both of you have experienced lately the kind of creation that feels free, because we're talking about that free creation. And so what have been moments of freedom lately for you, that creative flow where the inspiration is moving directly through without that filter, without the like where have felt like moments of that?
Emily, you're first.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. Like my mind, I'm like, oh, I feel, yeah, for me, like there's a lot that's felt free. I feel like what I'm working on right now is the time in this space to be able to really explore with the depth that my heart really desires. And I think it goes back to, something that I shared in the beginning of like just so many things that are like speaking to me and calling to me right now. But I feel like, music feels like that joyful creativity. And I love that you're like asking this question too, because I feel like the timing of it, with Venus about to go retrograde in Leo is such a beautiful time to look at pleasure, to look at creativity, to look at love and the ways that we find beauty in the world. And that's actually something I feel like, sometimes when planets are retrograde, the energy slows down a little bit. And we have the space to review, and sometimes it just happens like, or subconsciously, but I know for me personally it's like I'm really planning on utilizing the energy of that to really deepen into the things that are bringing me the most joy from like that childlike joy perspective. I'd love to hear from both of you what's bringing you joy right now.
Yeah, well, and then we're also approaching the Lionsgate portal too, this new sort of planetary cycle as well as we enter that
Yes.
big gateway. So yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
Avalina.
Yeah, well, for me, what I would say, in my practice lately and what I've been noticing more, it's becoming more evident, I would say, is when I'm connected in and I'm, well, I used to would call it channeling, but it's not even, it's not even channeling anymore. Like right at some point, it's like, you're not really even channeling your higher self. But and it's often with my eyes closed. And when I let and often this happens in a session, where I'm just so dropped in and so connected, and I'm letting just the pure raw energy flow through me, gives me incredible joy. And that feeling is becoming more stronger and lasts. Like I can feel it carries over, and like, wow, like to be able to be in that and live in that 100% is something that I'm assuming it will eventually take place. So that's been pretty exciting. And then also lately, I've done a lot of traveling, and I'm just noticing, you know, how visual things have brought me such joy of seeing nature and seeing the beauty of the world have brought me incredible states of gratitude, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm with you on the feeling that dropped in and then feeling the expanded, because you're right, it's not just channeling anymore. Like,
Mhm.
you and I've done a lot of that, but it's that pure spirit flowing through and just blowing any prior perceptions of the limit of that out of the water. Just absolute um limitlessness. And then interestingly, for me, it's sometimes singing with my daughter. We'll just be singing in in the car, and she'll put on something that we like to sing to, but also dance. I love to dance. And when I'm in a space of collective movement, um, there is a kind of expanded freedom there that I don't feel the same way in those other experiences. And I'm exploring and joyfully doing research that way as often as I can, to better understand how the collective movement patterns and the way that same energy can infuse a group and have that same sensibility, those same um, navigational tools as a collective unit. There's something about that that's very exponentially powerful too. So
I love that.
Yummy.
I love dance and movement so much, and I know exactly what you're saying about like the collective energy of like it's that liberation of we can move in any way. And actually a fun sort of like social experiment, my partner and I, we went to this yoga class, and we thought it was just going to be like regular yoga, and it ended up being ecstatic dance.
wow.
And it was so fun. It was a packed class, and it was so fun to watch because in the beginning, like there was like this sense of awkwardness of like, how, looking around, like, how are we supposed to move? And then like everybody just like let go. And you could see just like this freedom, this liberation and movement, and people were just having so much fun. And I feel like dance and movement can bring forth such a high vibrational energy.
Yeah. And yet the way you're describing that, it sounds exactly the same way as when people start finding their voice again, too. That first you have to kind of get used to what it feels like to use it and embrace that you can. And then once you do, the freedom that comes from that. I don't know how these forms, they're obviously very connected, but just I feel like there's a whole body of work to do there to discover how those forms line up with one another and how they're mirroring one another in the process they bring forth, and the powerful energies that transmute through them.
It's so perfect that you said that, because I was actually thinking the same thing of the connection of how when we release through the throat. And as you were talking, the dance, right? It's actually comes from the sacral, right? So again, we're back to that connection of the throat and the sacral, because when you move your hips, right? And they always say that's a great way to open up the sacral chakras to move the hips. So we're just the more deeper we go into conversation, the more we're illustrating this connection that we began with between the throat and the sacral. So amazing, synchronistically beautiful.
Yes.
So you open up one, you kind of open up the other, right? Like there's definitely a thread of how that process takes place, even. And letting go, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like one of the common threads too is around like creativity, because like in your like lower, your sacral chakra, it's like creativity of movement and sensuality. And then like as you go up, like the throat, it's like creative self-expression. Like how do we use the voice to speak and share from the heart?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting too how there is this perception that they're separate, that when you dance, you don't sing, or when you sing, you don't necessarily dance unless you're really, I guess musical theater is the other alternative, but it's really rare to find situations that fuse both. And I'm curious what the creative possibility is for the fusion of those, just in the world out there. Maybe it's a budding field that we're getting to explore at some point.
I totally feel like it is. And
Yeah.
actually, in my research, like there's this amazing book that's called When the Women Were Drummers. And it goes back. I mean, there's just some really fascinating research, and it talks about like oracles. At one point in time, they were all women, middle-aged women. And because, like, think about the power, right? Like, I mean, and from an astrological perspective, so much is being activated. Like, and I'm about to in August. So like, it's just something that I've been like personally reflecting upon. And it's like, there's so much to really look forward to, and that's being activated. And one thing that I found really interesting is like oracle high priestesses, in order to channel the divine, was through singing and dancing, simultaneously. So it's like that trance, like that, really high vibrational energy. So I absolutely think that that is being, coming back around and being liberated. So.
Oh, I love it. So exciting. Something to look forward to. And it also ties in with, like, if you look at the yogic traditions of holding mudras, right, in the body, in certain positions of the body, and toning, with that. It's that connection of the same thing with dance, like, but the dance is more flowing, whether, holding specific mudras and body positions, right, to unlock things. So I think it goes back in many traditions, and they're definitely connected in that way as well.
And even like in Bollywood styles of dance, the mudras are part of the dance that you're referring to. And and the collective piece, there's a woman in Alaska who does these amazing collective drumming situations. I'm blanking on her name, but she has this enormous drum and invites the community to all be part of these very active physical drumming sessions. And I don't know that because of the drum and the size, I don't know that if it translates to dance itself, but that same kind of activity that you're talking about, Emily, with this divine energy flowing through, but the power of collective uses of that. She's amazing with that. I'll have to find her name, but
yeah, I love that you bring forth drumming, because what's really interesting about learning to play the drum is that you have to be in your heart space, because as soon as you go into your head,
you lose the rhythm.
You lose the rhythm. It's one of the most beautiful ways to have people connect with their hearts and their bodies, and connect with the heartbeat of the earth.
Well, and they're so being able to do percussion and drums is such a God-given instrument, right? The forms of dance, including there's body percussion. It's an actual. So my daughter and I have taken classes on this. There's this wonderful guy in our area who does all body percussion, kind of group therapy for kids coming from situations that are really challenged. And the felt sense of it is what governs how the piece comes through. So there's like a call and response, and it's like its own language with the percussion. So talk about the body as a voice, and having it experienced in a way that may not be the throat chakra, but in a different way. Like as a group, maybe there is a throat expression happening spontaneously. It's really cool.
Yeah, what we're really talking about here is honing our instruments, right? Our whole body instruments, whether it's through the movement of dance, through the voice, through purifying with food, it comes back to what we always talk about. It comes back to the body, right? Like we're here to become our soul selves, the highest aspect of ourselves in a human form. So it's really honoring our bodies and finding ways to open them up.
Yeah.
How fun.
Absolutely.
I love that.
What a gift to be human and have the experience of being able to, I mean, these times are so magnificent. The fact that as humans, we are uniquely suited to be able to actually realize our own energy field and its evolution. And the fact that we, in a physical form, can have this perception at the same time. I mean, what an unbelievable, other creations have not had this capability in this way until now. And what a just amazing, miraculous time to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is so exciting. I mean, I love going back to just what you're both sharing about as the body as an instrument. It's like we have the most miraculous, temple that we've been gifted, and it's incredible. And sometimes, I know in my own personal journey, like I've forgotten that. I've neglected that, and so to really like be there for a physical vessel and attune to it is such an incredible gift, and it opens up all of these unlocked, like we're exploring. It's like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Speaks to the power of self-care too.
Mm.
How as we honor our bodies as a temple, the vibration of the cells physically is capable of more. The vibration brings added capacity to the cells and what power they have to transmute whatever we're meeting, because these times are so transformative. We're the power of travel, that we're moving to places where energies have been perhaps either imprinted, locked in a certain way, and we have the power just through our presence and our ability to see, honor, and meet those energies, to allow our bodies to be the transmuting vessel for Gaia, to be there for our planet and our Mother Earth in these ways, as we, even if it's in our own backyard, but just wherever we are, to meet the vibrations that have been imprinted there and help move them through us, through our voices, through our creative processes, in helping heal the evolutionary field that Gaia is gifting us as we live with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's lots of energies coming in now, as we've spoken of, that are assisting in that, and also maybe making it challenging for some, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you spoke of the Lions Gate coming up. That is 8/8, is that correct?
8/8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I think I recall this last year, and I'm not familiar with what the Lions Gate means. It's not something that are you, Shaunna? Or Emily,
Well,
do you?
I know Emily probably has a lot to say on this. My understanding is just that it's a cyclical, almost a planetary new year. Is that what your experience is, Emily? Just that there is that cycle is a very powerful planetary one, and it's connected, I believe, to Sirius, the star system in Sirius.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. We're in alignment with Sirius, and it is such a powerful portal and gateway. And I've just like, in my own personal journey, noticed this really palpably in the past 2 years. And I'm curious if there's like experiences that come to the surface for either of you. But I remember exactly, what I was doing the past 2 years on Lionsgate, and how, just that energy had an effect on future past timelines. I feel like really just holding that and holding our highest intention and timeline can be so powerful during the Lionsgate, particularly.
Mm.
Yes, I am with you in that, Emily. I felt especially last year, just that I do remember I was in an area of the world in which I actually got to see a lion, a puma in its natural processes doing what they do. This saw a puma literally hunting in broad daylight and being its fullest expression of itself, and that experience brought forth big change. There was a huge shift in energy right around that experience. And so it was interesting to see the natural world communicating what was coming, a huge shift. Avalina, do you have?
Well, as you're talking, I'm remembering. I'm like, what was I doing last August night? Because I can typically not remember anything anymore. But
I know.
I had just recently moved
to
Florida, and there was a significant amount of change, as I'm recalling now. So I'm quite getting excited now about what's about to take place. So that's really fun. So, and as you mentioned, Emily, about the intention, and as we were talking about the throat and the womb, it's like, okay, so what is our intention going into this? Let's maybe incorporate more dance and incorporate more sound, more singing in the next few weeks, and see what amplifies as far as our opening of our throats and wombs for this 8/8 portal. It should be, because I would love more of that. More, please.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love how you just intuitively brought that forth, because Lionsgate, the thing I feel is also really cool is that it's right in the middle of Leo season. And, the energy of Leo season is about that childlike joy of being in that frequency of play and creativity and joy. And I love that you brought forth like just really being intentional about what it is, like back to the question of like, how are you consciously creating right now?
Yeah.
And so how can we allow this portal to organically bring us into our field, the modalities and the timing of what's going to bring us the most expansive and perfectly orchestrated opening of this Lionsgate season.
Very exciting.
Very.
Yes, it is.
And isn't it wonderful that we're able to allow the divine feminine in us to help nurture that us meeting is no accident, right? The three of us having this conversation is so honoring of the divine feminine and the role that it's playing, but then also in our creationary vehicle, how does the orchestration with the receiving and the just, I guess, feeling into whatever modalities feel right, allowing the flow to bring you that, yes, we set an intention, but surrendering after that. Just how can we surrender to whatever feels right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's something that actually has been coming through recently for me is the further attunement to the feminine. And, I just feel us gathered to get today, like the open-hearted, the joy, the, divine feminine codes. And yeah, it's something that's so up for me personally right now. And I feel for the collective is my like inner standing too, is just like reattuning to perhaps like where that feels out of balance, or where we can be more in the receiving, in the trusting, in the flow.
Yeah. It's waking up that feminine in all of us, that magnetic energy, right?
Yes.
That the magnetic earth energy versus the electric, it's all connected in so many ways. Yeah. So I'm seeing perhaps a drum circle in our near future. A priestess drum circle. Yes, that would be very
magical.
Yeah, that would be something very expansive to participate in, and to really just let ourselves go, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Planting some seeds.
Maybe lines.
That's right.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun, and I love that this is the topics that it has come to have they've all been so connected and come for full circle of the body, the instrument, the divine feminine, and what's happening today in our planet, and where we're all moving to in our personal stories. They all seem to be like right in alignment, which is no surprise, right?
No, and just as we are cells of the larger collective human body, just celebrating that body and how the collective uh, meeting of this Lion's Gate can, the potential for what that can bring on a collective level too. So just celebrating how this gorgeous gathering is a reflection of that macro, and just celebrating the potential for our planet.
Yeah.
So celebrating you. Thank you, Emily, for joining
Yeah, thank
us.
you.
What a treat. It's
Oh my
so
gosh.
much fun.
So much fun. Yeah, I just feel overjoyed, honestly. It's been so much fun connecting with both of you, and just such a, we didn't know what we're going to talk about, and it's just like such a fun flow. So I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Thank you
Much
for coming
love to both of
play
you.
with us. Yes, much love to everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.